Hello everyone, this is grade 4 grammar lesson, recognizing verbs. Our objectives are first, recall what verbs are, and second, differentiate among action verbs, linking verbs, and helping verbs. So let's discuss what is a verb. So we all know that a verb is a word that can show action. Action is something that you do. It can be a physical or a mental action. When a verb tells what people or things do, it is called an action verb. However, we have other types of verbs and we're going to focus on them as well in this lesson. So when a verb tells what someone or something is like, it is called a linking verb. So from the word itself, link, the ideas are linked by the following forms of the verb be, like am, is, are, was, and were. So when you are using linking verbs, make sure that you're also paying attention to the tense of that verb. So you know that am, is, are all under the present tense, and was and were would be in the past tense. Or you use them if ever your sentence has a verb in the passive voice. So now we're going to look at two examples in here. First example would present us with an action verb. The second one is with a linking verb. So action verb example. Phillips reported from the site. What is Phillips doing? Yes, he is reporting. So he has reported from the site. So this is your action verb. So you know that action verb is a part of the predicate. So predicates could not exist without some form of verb in it. Now let's go to an example of a linking verb. The people were scared. So in this particular example, your linking verb is were. And you are connecting two ideas or two units of a sentence, the subject with the adjective, using this linking verb were, which is a form of be. Okay, so linking verbs are used to connect the subject and the predicate to each other. Now let's talk about another type of verb, which is the helping verb. Okay, so a verb may be more than one word. The main verb tells what the action is. But there's the helping verb also that comes before the main verb and tells more about the action. So in a sense, it gives more information about the action being done by the subject. So what are some helping verbs that we can use? We can use has, have, had, should, would, could, can, and may. Okay, so before we further delve into these examples, what is the difference between a helping verb and a linking verb? Okay, so when you say linking verb, you have the forms of the verb be, as we have mentioned in the previous slide, is, am, was, were, and are. Okay, and usually when they're inside the predicate unit, what comes after these linking verbs are adjectives or noun predicates. Okay, but then the helping verb is teamed up or paired up with another verb, which is called the main verb. And helping verbs could be further classified into auxiliary verbs and modal verbs. Okay, so auxiliary verbs would include the verbs under the have base form. Okay, has, have, and had. And also you have the verbs in be form. Okay, now auxiliary modal verbs, okay, would be verbs like should, would, could, can, and may, okay, that would further modify the action or the meaning of the main verb. So they add more information to your action basically. So let's look at two examples right here. So you have aliens have landed in a field. Okay, so your helping verb in here is have, and your main verb is landed. So your main verb denotes the action, and the helping verb merely adds information about your main verb. Okay, so we know that this particular sentence has or is in the present perfect tense simply because of the presence of the helping verb have. And we would be discussing more about how tenses change because of helping verbs in future lessons. Okay, so now you have the second example. People had gathered in the field. Okay, so your main verb or the action itself would be gathered, and your helping verb would be had. Okay, be careful also when using auxiliary verbs because you have to consider subject-verb agreement. Okay, so meaning you have to use the proper auxiliary, even the proper main verb for specific types of subjects. You have to make sure that you're using a singular verb for a singular subject, okay, or the S form of the verb for a singular subject and the base form of the verb for plural subjects. Now let's try this. Find sentences with action verbs, find the sentence with a linking verb, and point out the sentences with a main verb and a helping verb, okay? So to refresh everyone's memory, when you say action verbs, these are verbs that tell what the subject is doing, okay? So this is your main verb, right? Now a linking verb would be in the form of the base verb be. So you have is, am, are, was, and were. And also what comes after these verbs would be adjectives or noun predicates, okay? And you have the main verb and helping verb together. So helping verbs, the samples of these were presented in the previous slide. Number 1, Mr. Wilmot watched the spaceship. Number 2, the spaceship hatch should open. Number 3, the aliens were scary. And number 4, the aliens have asked for a snack. Okay, so if you have your copybooks with you, you can pause this video and you can try and identify the verbs and write them down in a list. Also, it would help if you would classify them according to whether they are linking verbs or action verbs or helping verbs. Now let's look at the answers. Okay, so in number 1, your action verb is watched. So it is expressed in the past tense. For number 2, you have the helping verb should and the main verb open. So you see how the meaning of the main verb slightly changed because of the presence of the helping verb should. Okay, it's like you're saying that the spaceship hatch opening is a requirement, meaning it must be done. Number 3, you have the linking verb were. Okay, so it links the aliens, which is your subject, with the adjective that is scary. And number 4, you have the helping verb have and the main verb asked. Now, let's talk about how you can use action verbs, linking verbs, and helping verbs in improving your writing. Okay, so we have examples in here of sentences with weak verbs and sentences with stronger verbs. Now, first example goes, the alien came out of the spaceship. Okay, so you have your verb came. But then, if you want to add more flair to your sentence, you want to add more action and flavor to it, then you can say instead, the alien climbed out of the spaceship. So in this case, you have the verb climbed out, okay, and your readers could visualize better what your subject is doing. If you want to be more fancy about it, then you can also say the alien disembarked from the spaceship. Now, the second example goes, a crowd is in the field. Okay, so your verb is. But then it's such a general verb, right? So we need to know exactly what the action was of the crowd. So instead of saying this, then we can say a crowd has gathered in the field, okay? Or a crowd has assembled in the field. So use stronger verbs, be more specific with the kind of action that you'd like to convey in your sentence so that your writing could be better. You can also check out our references and resources for more information about this lesson.